Good afternoon, everyone. This is Mike O'Malley here with the Hurricane Outlook and discussion for June 10th, 2020, recorded around 4:18 p.m. Eastern Time. Well, continuing to take a look here at the latest sea surface temperature anomalies, last updated as of yesterday, June 9th, we do notice that the ENSO conditions out here, really in particular, the Nino 3.4 region is much well below the long-term average here, with some temperatures now approaching 2 to a full 3 degrees Celsius below the long-term average. In the meantime, the tropical Atlantic here is warming up quite nicely as we transition to a more positive phase 1 AMO signature. You notice that a lot of the warmth that was stretched out through here is actually beginning to cool off now as we transition to more of that classical AMO phase 1. Before, we were in a transitional pattern between phase 2, which typically favors the subtropical Atlantic up here, and a phase 1, which favors the Canary Islands all the way down through the main development region of the Atlantic Basin. And that has implications going forward because we are going to see an increase in trade winds across this area. What easterly winds that will be blowing across here that could cause some cooler conditions to come back into the main development region, but we'll have to see how that progresses over the next several days. As it stands right now, there's a pretty good warm signature here in the main development region, where water temperatures are now almost unanimously a whole half a degree Celsius to a full degree Celsius above the long-term average in almost all locations in the MDR, which makes this for a very significant change. You think about a half a degree to a degree Celsius, above, you crank that up, on the water temperature over a vast area. That's a very significant amount of energy that's getting released back into the atmosphere when thunderstorms and tropical systems can take advantage of that. And that's what we're seeing right now. We're also seeing this area in the Gulf of Mexico start to rebound quite nicely, with those areas of cooler sea surface temperature anomalies now contrasting pretty decently here, and will continue to over the next several days or so. Now, if we take a look here at the upper ocean heat content values, this was updated earlier this morning. Again, what you typically want to look for, these greens, yellows, oranges, and now starting to even see some reds. That's typically indicative. That's the higher end of the scale up here, the upper echelon here, really. That indicates the latent heat potential in the atmosphere. That indicates how deep does the warmer water go at depth. And again, that's very important for tropical cyclones because they like to be able to take advantage of not only the skin temperatures, at about 26, 27 Celsius, but you have to have that warmer water go at depth. Otherwise, it can cause upwelling and actually weaken the storm. But we see a lot of the area here out in the Caribbean and, the portions of the Gulf of Mexico, Bay of Campeche, that are dealing with pretty decent upper ocean heat content values. You notice over here in the Gulf Stream running from the Florida Straits all the way up through off the Cape Hatteras area. There's also this area down here in the southern portions of the deep tropics that will be lifting north here over the next several weeks to months here. And again, this is all going to matter come August and September. This is going to have implications because, once again, we are seeing the signs of what could be a fairly busy Atlantic hurricane season, and that has implications as we go forward. So now if we're taking a look here at the actual sea surface temperatures, this is coming off of tropicaltidbits.com. This is from the CDAS methodology. It's just basically a different methodology for actually pinpointing what our sea surface temperatures are. Again, you notice that this area right here, this is all the upwelling that was caused here by Tropical Storm Cristobal as it moved over here generally, kind of course, moved inland over, portions of Louisiana. But this is all the upwelling that was caused by that. But most of the water temperatures are still 27 Celsius. Only a very small tip of 26 Celsius here off the tip of the Yucatan there. But again, for the most part, the Gulf of Mexico is more than supportive of tropical cyclones. The western part of the main development region into the Caribbean is thermodynamically supportive. And of course, the Gulf Stream here, definitely more than supportive. And now we're starting to see these 26 temperatures here, these 26 Celsius temperatures make it all the way to the to the edge of the Florida coast on the Atlantic side, all the way up through the low country of South Carolina, and just off the tip of Hatteras. So certainly now it's time to pay attention. We have the right thermodynamic environment. If we take a look here at the sea surface temperatures out in the tropical Atlantic here, this is the main development region, which runs right about through here. Again, we have an area of generally now that's kind of creeping out towards 40 west. That's now starting to get more active or more conducive, at least in the thermodynamic sense. You notice where all this deeper water temperatures are. That's where the higher upper ocean heat content has been. And again, you're going to watch this area lift off towards the north here. And, the Cape Verde Islands are only right here. That's the Cape Verde Islands right there. That's the Azores up there. And again, these water temperatures are not that far from being to the Cape Verde Islands at or just near what's conducive for tropical cyclones to actually take advantage of. So certainly we're really going to have to pay attention into this area come August and September. I do believe so. Now, if we take a look here at this is taking a look here at the wind shear. This is coming from the Central University of Wisconsin-Madison website about 3 hours ago, 15 Zulu time. Again, most of the Caribbean and main development region is still shut down because there is a lot of shear across this area. There is some drier air that's coming from the Saharan air layer, the SAO, those outbreaks that come from the Sahara Desert, of course, in Africa. But we do notice that there is a pocket down here of some marginal favorability in portions of the Caribbean. Again, you have some wind shear out here, but mainly actually taking a look at the portions of the Eastern Pacific, the southeastern Pacific Basin, there's really not a lot of vertical wind shear. So really just the overall environment in the Pacific Basin, the Eastern Pacific Basin, is not conducive. When you have a non-conducive Pacific Basin, you typically see the Atlantic Basin take over August, September, October, and it's looking like that way. Again, just for reference, we are 3 named storms to 1. 3 named storms in the Atlantic and 1 in the Eastern Pacific, which of course was Amanda, that later reformed into becoming Cristobal out in the southern Bay of Campeche. And taking a look here, this is the 850 millibar vorticity that's spinning the atmosphere about 5,000 feet off the ground. Again, as you get up towards these reds and whites here, you're actually getting the higher cyclonic spin in the atmosphere. Again, not really seeing much. This is actually some of the remnant circulation here of tropical, or what is now post-tropical cyclone Cristobal. It became post-tropical just before crossing into Wisconsin last night. And this is going to continue to merge, again, with this extratropical low over here, this non-tropical low. And that's what this is now. It's a non-tropical. This does not have any more warm core processes that are driving this system. So it was pretty impressive to see it come all the way up to near Wisconsin, and then it became post-tropical at that time. But this is expected to produce some heavy wind and rain across portions of the Canadian mountains up here, and certainly that's going to be a problem, of course, for anybody up there. So heavy winds, some rain is expected as the remnants of Cristobal do pass through Canada. There's also another system out here. This is another baroclinic system that's kind of also helping to make Cristobal lose its tropical characteristics. So really not seeing much out here in the tropics at all. And for that fact of the matter, even the Eastern Pacific Basin, there's one area out here, but not really expected to develop. There's no model support for it. This is our little area of interest out here, but it has a 0% chance over the next 5 days, so not really watching that. But there is some associated vorticity with that as well, but not really seeing much. Again, the tropics all in all are pretty quiet and should stay that way at least for a little bit now as we head into the latter, mid to latter part now of June. And if we take a look here at the 850 millibar vorticity coming from tropicaltidbits.com, this is the GFS forecast here, valid right now, 6 hours. This is at 1 o'clock this afternoon, so not too long ago. Again, that's our little area out here to the east of Bermuda. Not really expected to do much. And the GFS forecast over the next 5 days, maybe one area of small bit of vorticity out here. You do have to watch that this time of the year. But even out here, really kind of taking a look through the next about 200 all the way up into June 19th. Really, the models aren't really hinting at anything, maybe something down here. But again, really nothing in the Atlantic Basin, nothing of significant land concerns out here in the Eastern Pacific Basin at all. And the European model also does suggest that there's really not going to be any cyclone formation here throughout the next, almost through the end of June, really. There's nothing expected really in this area. So all in all, the tropics are going to remain fairly quiet for now. Again, this is expected as we approach the latter part of June. June and July are typically our quietest months in terms of hurricane development. And again, this then will lead us into the latter part of June, where we have a lot of new exciting things coming up. We are testing unmanned camera systems. We will be kind of bringing that to you guys here. We will be testing unmanned live camera, or not live cameras, but unmanned cameras that can be positioned out in a hurricane, that we will be able to pull the footage from and kind of bring that to you guys, really be immersive in that. So if you guys want to see more about what we're going to be doing, again, over the next coming weeks, I will be posting stuff periodically on Twitter about it. So if you want to follow my Twitter, I will put that in the description. Of course, it's just at Mike Remalley1, Remalley for the last name. But again, if you guys want to check out what we're doing, go ahead and check that out, because we will be getting a bunch of new information about that as kind of things progress with our testing. And of course, as always, hope y'all stay safe. I am Mike Remalley, and I will see you guys back here tomorrow for another Hurricane Outlook and discussion.